Hi everyone, it is the fourth week of We Mean Business, which is crazy. And I am very excited to say that joining me on this week's show is the wonderful Charlotte Wood from Rosewood Financial Planning. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Bit nervous actually. Oh, now I'm
I know.
here.
Do
Ooh.
you know what? I still get nervous every time when it goes live. My heart's like, oh, here we go. But no, it's exciting. It's going to be good. I am excited. So, for anyone who doesn't know Charlotte, she is a chartered financial planner and is the director of Rosewood Financial Planning, which is based in Essex. So, to start things off, Charlotte, tell us a bit about why you do what you do.
Well, I think the why I do what I do, why I became a financial advisor was just a mistake, like all of us, isn't it? But why I stayed in it, I suppose, is probably the right answer. Is I really just fully love it. Like I really do love what we do, and actually, my love of it grows year on year. I think as I like to think that I get better at my job year on year and get better as a businesswoman year on year. So I think the more I progress, and the profession changes year on year as well. So I am increasingly falling in love with this profession. I just love the work that we do for clients. I love how it can be really life-changing. Just like I think we are just in an absolutely amazing profession. Like if we compared it to becoming an accountant, like I'm sure there are accountants who are very happy with their lives, but like it's just not for me. So yeah, and then in terms of why I run the Facebook group for women, like it's just the support and the community that is in there is absolutely incredible. Like I have met so many amazing women in this profession. So yeah, just full of love.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's such a fulfilling and rewarding job. And when you start seeing the difference it can make to people's lives, like it is crazy. And people become your friends, don't they?
Yeah.
Clients become your friends, and it's like it's the best thing ever because it's like having a chat with your friend and you're getting paid for it.
It is, and it's just silly stuff, like I emailed a client back last night really quickly. I was just like, oh, can we just take a minute to be impressed at how efficient I am sending this email already? And he came back just before we came on live being like, I've taken a moment, I'm impressed. And I'm like, thank you very much.
It's just nice things like that, isn't it? I love it. Amazing. So Charlotte, tell us a bit about how you found navigating your way in the profession as a young woman.
Oh, well, so this question I struggled with, and I'll tell you why. Because at the time, so I've been in the profession since I left sixth form, like so 12, 13-ish years. And I sort of thought it was all right at the time, and I've enjoyed it, and I've obviously been able to progress professionally. And so at the time, I felt like I've really I felt for a long time like being a woman in the profession, it didn't matter that I was a woman. I look back on that now, a bit older, a bit wiser, a bit more confident, and see how I see it through a very different lens now. And some of the conversations and the experiences that I had in the past, some of the work environments that I have been in, I now recognise that while I just thought it was like bants, it just the blokes being banty. Like I now recognise that that's actually a really hostile and toxic work environment for young people in general to be in, but particularly young women. And so I feel very differently about it now, and I really recognise how important a lot of that stuff and the conversations that are had in jest in offices, like when you compound that over several years, like the derogatory comments around female clients, around working women, about people having baby brain, or like, oh, it's that time of the month, like, and it's stuff like that. They think they're being funny. But yeah, compound that over a decade, and that actually really has an impact. So I've spent actually the last few years, since I've been out of formalized work environments, like really unpicking a lot of that, and recognizing that, you know, that wasn't really okay, to be honest. But you don't call it out, and you don't feel confident to call it out. You don't want to be the buzzkill. And fundamentally, that's crazy, because buzzkill for asking people to be a little bit more respectful. Like, what's a disrespecting women is fun, like that. Like, so I feel very differently about it now, actually, looking back.
Yeah, it's interesting how you say, because obviously most people stress that, but I think that's really interesting you say looking back and actually sort of analysing a little bit, like looking back at the older, wiser. Yeah, interesting. But taking that on the flip side, something a bit more positive, what have you seen as some of your biggest rewards in your career so far?
Yeah, so as we've talked about before, like, so I have a young family. I've got 2 kids. Oh, I can't say 2 under 2 anymore. He's just turned 2. 2 under 3, not as catchy. And so one of the things that I think has been incredibly rewarding around this profession is how easy it is as a profession to work around your family. Like, it absolutely can be. I know that that's not everyone's experiences in employed environments, or because of expectations of others, but fundamentally, as a job description, it is super easy to do this job around family. And so I now see a lot of other like mums who are in completely different professions, like in my, you know, mum communities, who go through this real like stressful period after having children, because they no longer feel like they can go back to the work role or environment, or even professional career entirely. They don't feel like they can go back to that, so they're almost having to like completely go back to the drawing board. Like, what do I do now? Like, and having to go through significant career changes and retrain. And so I feel incredibly like blessed, because I didn't plan that as an 18-year-old falling into this profession. I was never like, oh, this will be good when I've got a family. Like, who cares at 18?
Yeah.
It has worked really well, and it's one of the I think the strongest things that we can push for, you know, getting younger, like more women through in the profession, because it's a fantastic and like financially rewarding job to do around young kids. So yeah, that's been a great experience for me.
Yeah, that's something I always say when I talk about the role and why I love it and the great things about it. It is so flexible. It really can be. You can just make it work for you in all different ways, whatever sort of life throws at you, or things you decide to do, children you decide to have. Like, you can just work around it. And like you said, not only that, it is financially rewarding and a great job. So no, I love that. And what do you think? So you've looked back and you sort of analysed how you found it in the industry when you were younger and things like that. What sort of modern challenges do you think women find entering the financial planning profession?
Oh, I think there's a lot. There's so many ways to cut that question, but I think one of the biggest things, and I still think this is a massive issue, and I'm increasingly glad for communities of people, but I found it very difficult that I had no, what I would say, like healthy female role models to look at in the profession. And what I mean by that is not like what they were eating. I mean, it became, actually, Anna Suffolk explains this really well on the like the Gretchen Betts and Olivia Parnell run the Financial Change Makers podcast, and they did an episode on gender. And so Anna Suffolk explained this concept called the sticky middle, and it's absolutely fantastic and well worth a listen. But what part of the point she was making is that the women that get past that sticky middle in professionally have to adapt to a workplace and compromise on some of their values. And that's what I mean when I say healthy female role models, because in the environments that I've been in, I have only been able to see women who have had to adapt to male dominated environments, which is not us living into our values. Like, I haven't seen any women who have been able to fully embrace being females in the profession, and also mothers. Like, I have heard a lot of mum shaming in workplaces, to the point where, like, I felt like that for a while, like when I was younger and didn't have kids and had no aspiration to necessarily have any. And I was just like, kids are almost seen as weakness. And that's something that I really, really have had to unpick the last couple of years becoming a mum. And actually now I really advocate that it's one of our strongest strengths. Like, being a mum in financial planning is, like, I think makes us much, much better planners and even more empathetic. But so for a while, I think that's an issue. That's an issue. And I think what's becoming better is that there are now younger role models and women who are quite open about working around their children and doing things that, like, in a way that they're not having to try and be more masculine, and actually can completely call out inappropriate behaviors. And, like, I wish I had seen that as, like, someone coming through the ranks. So yeah, that's probably my strongest point. But there's, I could ramble on about, the different challenges for women coming into this profession for quite some time. So
yeah, no, of course. So yeah, I totally agree. And I think, looking the other way, what do you think we can do to encourage more women into the financial planning industry? Because, like you said, we make great financial planners, we're empathetic. When we have children, it makes us even more sort of kind and caring, and people want to sit and chat to us. So what do you think we could be doing to encourage more women in?
I think companies, like, need to take a long, hard look at the work environments that they encourage, and stop making excuses for boys will be boys and it's just a bit of banter. Like, it's not just a bit of banter, it's actually incredibly derogatory, a lot of what goes on in male environments. So that's an issue, and I think that can only change when men embrace this conversation, which isn't happening enough, and to recognize that actually, if they had a good solid workforce of female financial planners, as well as some support staff, like, that would only make their businesses much better. It would make their client relationships much better. And I'm not saying that in a women do the job better, I'm just saying that in a having that diversity in general, we know improves every workplace in every profession. So it will only ever make a business stronger by having that. And I think what we could do, like, I think there needs to be much stronger female mentorship available, because the female experience in this profession is different to the male one. And I can argue that for hours, and I'm absolutely, a lot of people will say, like, oh, it didn't have an impact on my profession and my career, or a man will say, well, I wouldn't treat a female apprentice any different than I'd treat a male apprentice. But that in itself is the problem, because women are different to men, and actually it's not sexist to recognize that we therefore have different needs. And it's also, like, it's not derogatory or a negative thing to recognize that, like, we know there are so few women in this profession, yet people kind of just go, well, if I'm treating them the same, then I'm doing my bit. And actually, it's okay to be pro-female, to aggressively and actively and vocally be pro-female. That doesn't make you anti-male. It just is recognizing that there is only one way to fix this solution, which is for us all to be more advocates for women in this profession. And so, yeah, that's a lot could change is the answer to that question, I think.
Yeah, and the more we support each other, the better. And I know you run a Facebook group, which is the Women in Financial Advice community, which is amazing. And when I stumbled across it, it's like all these women in financial advice, this is amazing. So tell us a bit more about that and your mission with the group.
Oh, I don't know if I've got a mission. That sounds a lot more formal than me just spending a lot of time chatting on Facebook. And the original reasoning behind it was, I really found a different side to female relationships when I become a mother, like, not in the work, like, in terms of work. But yeah, I really found that women could be more supportive than I'd ever realised or seen before. And I think I just hadn't experienced that. We're all taught that, like, women are bitchy and we're all in competition and we should all be judging each other on every little thing. And actually I completely saw a different side of female relationships through motherhood, and I wanted to emulate that in my work. I'd never really worked with many other women ever, and I've possibly in 12 years worked directly with 4 other female financial planners, like not many at all. And so I was just like, right, well, if I want to create, I can't find this environment anywhere else. You can't walk into a conference and chat to 50 other women because they're not there. So I'll create a place. And it wasn't I didn't expect it to be very much, to be fair, but we're now at nearly, I think, just over 7 or coming up to 700 members. And it's not just, there are lots of financial planners, obviously, but it's like we're very unselective in the sense that we've got lots of paraplanners, compliance officers, there's some like wealth managers and DFMs in there as well. There's business owners, there's employees, like there's a real mixed bag. And part of, one of the things that I'm most proud of actually is that there's some like really big names in there, like the people where you're like, oh, they're a big deal. They are in the group. And so, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, they feel a little bit like prestigious and famous to me. So to then be like having them commenting on my nonsense that I'm posting in the it gives me a little bit of imposter syndrome. But yeah, so it really took off. And I think the reason it took off is because we actually were all craving that space. Like we've all been craving that that community within other women who have had similar experiences to us. And one of the things, one of the trends that I see the most in there, and from one-to-one conversations that I have with women from that group, is like quite often, like we are battle weary, like from conversations or situations that we found us in professionally. Like, I have a lot of conversations with women who are just really worn down by things that are outside of their control quite often. And so I think it's given them an environment and a space to feel safe and outside of that, and to see what else there is out there that actually could suit them much better. So there's a lot of career chat actually in that group, a lot of career chat. And, also just so, as much as it is the women in financial advice community, and there's lots of financial advice chat as you would expect, and would you do this calculation this way, and what provider would do this? There's that, of course. Equally, we are just a group of professional women who have lives. So I'm not strict about it only being work chat. There is quite often other bits. I quite often push my feminist agenda within that group, and that's very deliberate, because I think we have to be more vocal, and if we can't be more vocal within ourselves, and we're not feeling confident enough to be more vocal about these issues just within a safe environment around other women, how can we go into a room that's male dominated and feel confident to address those issues? Like, so I'm using it's multifaceted, but I'm really glad I set it up, and I never expected it to be what it is. So
yeah, it's crazy. I remember when you accepted my invite, whatever you call it, and I was like, oh my, like there's so many women in here, like you kind of feel like they didn't even exist. Like if you're someone in the industry and you've been to an event, you would be shocked to join a group where there's 700 other women in the industry, because you have moments where you think there is nobody else, and it sounds really dramatic, but you do. You so do. And what are some of the success stories you've seen in the group? Because I bet you've had all sorts posted in there, so we'd love to hear some nice stories. I
think the biggest success stories, I guess in that sense, is, there's lots of collaboration. There's loads. We've had people come in and doing chats. We've, Tina Weeks has come in and done sessions for us on like her fee models and stuff. Catherine Morgan's come in and done chats around her coaching courses and stuff like that. We've had some really great sessions and some really great conversations. And, some of that is not, conflict isn't the right word, but a lot of it is people expressing differences of opinions. But I've only ever really seen it respectfully. I'm not really having to slap anyone's wrists or tell anyone to rein it in. Like, people were generally very respectful that, you know, we feel very differently about certain things, and also very passionate about certain things, certainly how our businesses should be set up or how we should be dealing with clients. But compared to some of the more open platforms, I mean, have you seen how financial advisors speak to each other on Twitter? Like, there's a bit dog eat dog out there. Where, you know, it's always done respectfully and in a completely supportive environment. So I think a lot of the success stories, probably, to be honest with you, go on behind, you know, closed doors, so to speak. They're more private conversations, and I know that a lot of people have made really pivotal career decisions on the back of some of the conversations that they've either seen or taken part in that group. So helping people feel supported to progress their careers, like, is that's amazing to me, that they feel like they found somewhere that they can help move themselves forward or get out of situations they're not happy in. Like that's great as far as I'm concerned.
That's a success story in itself, isn't it? Having that place for people to come together and have those chats and maybe make life-changing decisions, like you don't know what. I guess it's perfect. So you've created this group and it's done really well. You've got these amazing women in there. What would you say you want your legacy to be when you look back in, I don't know, 20 years and you look back at your career? What would you like to look back on?
God, so I think this is only really forming in my mind now. I remember, so I did like some life coaching outside of the profession a couple of years ago as I was entering motherhood, and they were talking about, there's a lot of chat about legacy, and I really struggled with that because a lot of people on the course that I was doing were talking about like their kids are their legacy, and I was like, I love my kids, but they're not my legacy. Like, I don't want, you know, my gravestone to just read like, was a good mum, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to anyone who is happy with that, but it wasn't calling to me. And so I really struggled with the concept of legacy. I love the work that I do for clients. Is it my legacy? It just wasn't feeling right. And I think the reason is because I've actually only really felt like I found my true purpose over the last like 18 months, because I'm increasingly feeling called to serve the women in this profession. Like, I just feel like, where are our advocates? Like, where are the women, like the female role models? Like, where are the people who are aggressively pushing for our rights and for us to be treated respectfully in this profession? I'm so sick, if I'm honest, of like the lip service that's paid to there's only 17% female financial advisors. There's only 17%. Like, people pretend to care but then do nothing, like the complete inaction. I'm got to a point where I'm really done with it. Like, I'm fully done with the lip service. Like, I want to see action. So I think from a legacy perspective, like, what do I want people to say when I've left the profession? Like, I want them to just feel like it's a better place once I've left than it was when I joined for women. Like, I feel really passionately about making this a better work environment for us all, and for us to, I felt like for a lot of my career, like, I'm the underdog, and a lot of that is because of my gender, and I don't want that to be a normal experience for women going forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I don't know about you, but I think even the few years I've been in the sort of paraplanning financial planner role, I have seen a bit of a difference. We haven't gone miles, but we have seen a bit of a difference. Like, I will happily say, in some of my first roles, when I said when I was in admin paraplanning I wanted to be an advisor, I had a few people go, "Oh, you're female and you're young, and it's not really an option.
No one's going to take you seriously."
I've had that said so many times, and I look back and I'm like, okay, well, I'm a financial planner now, so are you. We're doing great, we love our job, so please tell me why you thought that wasn't an option, because it definitely is. And I think, like you said, the more people that say that and show that, and these young women now who can do this and say, oh yeah, well, I can do that too because they're doing it, I think is great. And I hope it does make more young women think, I can do that. I can be a financial planner and have a great career. You're not too young or too female to do it.
Yeah, and I think I'm really cautious about how I talk about this, because I know it's a contentious topic, but I know that a lot of women get stuck as being in support roles or paraplanners.
Mm-hmm.
And I say it's contentious because I also fully recognise there are a lot of women who choose to remain in those roles and really love being paraplanners. So I want to be clear that I absolutely agree that it is a career choice in its own right.
100%.
We do also know there are women who don't necessarily feel fully supported to make that transition, who maybe would in a different environment. And if they were in a space where they felt supported and encouraged and to be more confident, because that's a massive issue for us as women. Like, we are not taught to be super confident. We are not taught to be super outspoken. In fact, we're taught to stay quiet, and we're taught to, know our place, and we're taught to, that being bossy and assertive and negative qualities in women. I like to think that the younger generation of like kids now aren't being taught these things, but it was definitely still the norm when I was a kid. So to then commute that to, commanding high charges, like when we're speaking to clients about fees, and being an authority on something in front of, an individual about something they're very emotive about, obviously their finances, that transition doesn't naturally happen. And that goes back to the piece about we really need stronger female mentorship in this profession, because those are overcoming barriers that quite often men don't understand or see. Like, it's an invisible barrier. Like, they don't know that we have issues around confidence with charging, because they don't understand that money has more shame attached to it for women than it does for men, because that's what we've been told for years and years. So
So tell us a bit, Charlotte, about running a business and being a mother of 2 children under 3. Tell us about that.
Oh, so it's a blessing. It's just a blessing. No, so I am really glad, as I've already said, to be in this profession where I can juggle my career and my kids. I haven't had to make any significant career changes for them, and I say this quite a lot. I love my kids. I don't necessarily love the job of parenting. Like, it doesn't come. It's relentless in a way I never understood before I had them. So what I want to say is, because people keep saying, someone said it to me just before this call, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, well, firstly, it's not like, I don't want to be like, oh, it's easy breezy. There's no stress behind it. Because I think, there's quite a lot of pressure on women to make it seem like we are juggling all these hats effortlessly. Like, I just happen to be running this business, and like with my kids, and life is amazing.
It's all okay.
Like it's not like, the whole film isn't there. Like, I don't know how she does it, or something along those lines. And it's like, no, life doesn't look like that. Actually, I fully have a lot of frustrations, and it does come with a lot of stress and sleep deprivation. And so I don't want it to sound like sunshine and rainbows, and I would never want another woman to feel pressured to look like she's got it all together just for the sake of like face. I think that's the thing that we feel, isn't it? Like, you have to be like, oh, this is so easy. It's tough. But I absolutely love it. And I think so I'm raising 2 boys. It's just a typical curse of a strong feminist, is to have 2 boys, isn't it? And I feel really strongly that I want them to see, like, that mummy goes to work too. Like, I want them to understand that from a very young age, that that's not an unusual thing, and that's completely normal for both of their parents to be working, and very visibly working. We now both work from home full time. I don't want it to seem odd. Do you know what I mean? That they've got...
no, totally. I think, and I think that's a really good point you make about both parents going to work. Because it's a thing now. Like, a lot of people do it, and it's not just always mum that stays at home. It could be mum, or it could be dad. It could be anyone. So I think, and also not having to put on a brave face and say, I'm absolutely fine, I'm managing it all. Because sometimes it's like, actually, it's really hard, and I am really stressed, and I'm losing the will to live.
Yeah, and I definitely found that, like, outside of the profession, like when I went to sort of like mum groups and stuff, and with my first, and it's just a shock when you have your first, and you sort of sit in these groups, and everyone would be like, oh yeah, I'm doing fine, yeah, oh, it's just so lovely, I just love being a mum, it's just magical, and then one person, quite often me, would go, this is horrendous. What have I done? Like, what have I signed myself up for? And then all of a sudden everyone's like, yeah, I don't know if I like it. Actually, like, how do I go? I miss my old self. I miss my old body. I miss my sleep pattern. Like, I miss work. And suddenly, like, everyone feels these things, but we always feel pressure to not, because it's like we should be just loving motherhood.
Yeah,
It's like,
no, 100%. And like you said, it takes that one person to say it, and everyone goes, okay, I can say it too. I'm stressed. Like, and it's good for that one person to say something and feel like they can, because we all get there, we all get stressed, and it's so much better than putting on a brave face than having a meltdown 3 weeks later.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just think these emotions need to come out somewhere. So, and that's, you know, very much something I've carried forward into the community that I've tried to build. Like, I don't want women to come in and be like, oh, you know, business is going great. Actually, if it's not, like, if someone's struggling, like, I want to hear their struggle. And, you know, like, and that's part of it is, you know, everyone rallies. Do you know what I mean? There has never been like, there's no judgment or, oh, you should be doing it this way, or of course you're failing because of this. And I see that sometimes in other social media. Like, it's just a super supportive environment where women just rally. And I love that.
Yeah, that's what we need. It just makes life so much better and so much easier if everyone sort of says, no, it's fine, we can do this, we can help you, rather than, oh yeah, well, because you're doing that. It makes such a huge difference. Okay, so we are coming to the end now, but I would like to ask you for a book or podcast recommendation that you think the audience will find inspiring.
Yeah, so I was so this book was given to me by the life coach that I mentioned that I've worked with before. So it's called Invisible Women, written by Caroline Criado Perez, and it is about how there is a lot of gender, effectively how the world is designed for men, but in a statistical way. So it's not an opinion piece at all. It's about how, like, government policy, technology, workplaces, medical research, everything is bound up in unconscious bias, and we don't even realize it. We just sort of kind of plod along in life, not realizing how, like, male as the default is a really like negative issue for women and how it affects our lives. So it's just like one statistic which jumps out at me, which is still in my head, is that, like, women are 47% more likely to be injured in car accidents. And the reason for that is because of how car safety tests are run and how seatbelts are built. Like, they're not built for women. And so it's just got these hard hitting, like, analytical statistics where you're just like, Jesus freaking Christ, how did I not know that, you know, the game is stacked against you effectively before you've even done anything? So,
it's crazy.
It's, I think, essential, like, listening or reading for everyone, not just women. Because I think if men read that book, they will actually start to finally get it. They might
like a statistic like that's crazy. That's something you never think of. Like, you always think of the obvious, and that is far from the obvious. That's definitely surprised me. So yeah, interesting.
So yeah, I really, it's just, I still think it should be taught in schools, frankly. Like, it's fantastic. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Charlotte. Sadly, that's all we have time for, but it has been fantastic, and you've brought some brilliant information. So thank you very much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Good, perfect. And thank you guys at home for watching, of course. And next week we will have another amazing, inspiring woman from the world of finance. And if you want to keep informed, keep up to date, get recordings of previous shows, plus much more, please do sign up to the mailing list, which has been posted in the chat. Thank you all for watching. Have a lovely weekend, and I will see you soon.